Hey there, YouTube swingers. This is Howie here, and I'm going to be going over my January results from my swing trading. So I will just talk and go. Let's do this. So my starting bankroll was 522 and change. Over January, I did 25 trades, 7 and 8 wins and losses. Profit was 30,000 and change. The bankroll at the end of the month was 552. It's a total profit of 5.8%. Now keep in mind I started trading on the 13th of January was my first trade. The NASDAQ during that same time, just going to change that to a percent. Oh, that doesn't make any sense. Anyway, it was 2.83%. I'll fix that later. So the difference, basically my goal is obviously to beat the NASDAQ or the index fund of the NASDAQ. So I beat it by 2.77%. My biggest win was NVIDIA at 12.3K. My biggest loss was VRME minus 7K. This was a really little $2 stock. I don't know what I was doing there. And I'm on pace at this 5.8% over just over 2 weeks for 117% return on the year. That's pretty optimistic. I don't think I'll be holding that, but overall that was a decent month or several weeks at least. So I'm going to go through the trades, at least some of them. So starting on January 13th, I got pretty lucky in a sense of got two big wins right away, 11K, 12K. So that certainly set me on a good path for the month. I also wanted to mention that I will not be doing, when I do the month end, it'll be not just the stocks that have sold. Like some of these stocks, these guys down here, I bought in January, but I haven't sold them yet. So it will just be the profit and loss for all of the stocks that are still trading on the 31st or on the end of the month, as well as obviously the sold stocks. So that will just keep things sort of relatively consistent. So we had a little patch of losers here on the 22nd, 23rd. I bought 4 stocks in a row. And you can see none of them really lasted long. One was out the same day. This guy lasted 5 days, but overall they stopped. They got stopped out. Now what's interesting is I've been experimenting with take profit stop loss, what I call basically setting a stop loss and then setting a trade take profit level and just sort of letting it go, and also starting with the trailing stop loss. So I'm messing around with both. I've done some more trailing stop losses recently. I'm not sure which one I'm going to land on, but I'm sort of experimenting with them. So these two stocks, for example, I entered them both with a trailing stop loss, as you can see, 164, 104. And then what happened was my profit and loss was almost break even with these because they ended up going up reasonable amounts, say 4 or 5%, and then came all the way down, and then I got stopped out almost at break even. So I would consider these two trades to be break even. But what's interesting, I think, about these guys is that if I had have done a take profit stop loss, it may have been a different result. Well, it would have been a different result. I may have been stopped out for the full loss. But I also may have ridden a wave down and ended up in profit land. So I'm not sure. Still kind of early to decide my preferred entry level. Um, I don't know if I said this in my intro, but I'm not planning on watching the markets, morning, noon, and night. I want to have a system that I can set stuff, and if I need to walk away for a few days or even a week, it's not going to be damaging to me. Let me look. I also did a couple of trades. This one was interesting where watching some, videos and reading some books talked a lot about taking profit on the way up. So this KINS stock, for example, I got in on January 22nd. This was one trade of 3,000 units, but then it went up 6%, and I took half of it off at 6%, so I made 1,500 on the first half of that trade here. And then I let the other ride, and that actually just sold today, and I made 36,667 on the second half of that trade. So quite interesting. I sold the first half at I bought at 15.24, sold the first half at 16.24 for a 6% profit, and let the other ride all the way up to 17.69 is what I got out. It's currently trading at 17.85, so it's done quite well for me. So that's interesting. I did the same with this Fox stock, the same idea. I bought it at 46.61 on the 27th of January, and I sold half of it on the 3rd of February for 13.35 profit, again just over 5%. And the other one actually gapped up this morning and sold at 52.52 for 11%. So those are the 2 times so far that I've actually split the stock and sold half of it on the way up, so that I'm experimenting with that philosophy of trading. Looking at other things, I think there's not too much outside of that. I'm going to bring up sort of what I like and what I don't like about my trading style for January, what things I'm going to be working at in February. But let me pause here for one moment, and then I will bring up the other paper. Okay, I'm back, and we have just sort of my thoughts on January. What I liked about January, of course, was beating the market, making a profit. That was excellent. Having a 50% win rate was kind of cool. Even though technically it's not really 50% because I broke a couple trades into pieces and it gave me sort of 2 wins for 1 trade. So it's not entirely accurate. I did have a few significant wins where I went above 10% return. And then obviously over 2-to-1 wins to losses as far as the rate. I don't think I showed this, but I had this is again into February stats, so it's not perfectly aligned, but my average loss is 1900, my average win is 44.99, 45. So I like to try and keep this at a 2-to-1. That would be awesome. This is just about perfect. If you can win half your trades and double your trades on average, I think it's a pretty good thing. So I like those things. Obviously, there's much more to learn. I am a rookie, so this is very beginner. I'm fixing as we go. So tweaking of screeners. I got into a couple like this stock, for example. I'm not sure what I was doing here. Let me find it here. This VRME stock, I bought 15,000 shares at 268. And I put my stop loss far too loose, like a 9% stop loss is too much, I think. In some of these, I'm even seeing 9%, this 14% stop loss. I've got to tighten that up. I can't be having that much volatility in my stop losses. So this one, for example, where was I? The VRMRE here. Yeah, you can see I got stopped out at 243 and took almost a $4,000 loss, and it was the same day. So clearly it was hugely volatile. I got in and got stopped out very quickly. You can see by the market stats it's down to $1.27. So it's down almost 50% from, or 100% from when I got out of it. So I don't really know what I was thinking on that one, but that one in particular stuck out as like it's a dollar stock. I don't really want to be getting involved in anything that's too wild and volatile like that. Probably didn't have enough volume. So that would be something to look at in my screeners. I don't want anything that's ridiculously low volume or too volatile. Also in my screeners, I want a higher ratio of good looking stocks because I do a screener and it pops me up 50 or 75 stocks, and I might see 2 or 3 that actually look good to me. So I would like to, if I can tweak the screener a bit, maybe show a few less stocks but have more of them looking exciting for me. Exit strategy, I'm not even really sold on this. I started off and I thought a 2.1 average true range was where I started, but I think on a lot of these, it was just too big. Some of these numbers for stop losses are giant, 9%, 7.5%, 10%. That isn't accurate, but I got to fix that. 16% on the first one. So I just can't be buying something for this 25 something and stopping like 16% down, because that, again, if you translate that into 5 or 6 losses in a row, you're going to have a huge downturn. So we don't want that. So tighten up the exit strategy and have a consistent stop loss exit. And again, I don't know what that is. Still working on that, but I need to improve that. 1% rule is something that I want to be pretty strict about. So limiting overall loss to 8% cap. So if I were to tomorrow get stopped out of every single trade I'm in, it can't be more than 8%. So I can't have more than 8% risk at any one time. So I use this little guy, which shows me what 1% of my account is, 5,500 right now. And then obviously double would be 2%, just to give an idea. So let's say I'm in 8 trades, or I'm in 7 trades that all have this or less as my stop loss, then I'm in okay shape. So right now, active, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, no, that one's not active. That one didn't fill. 6, 7 active stocks right now. So I should be looking at these numbers. These are my stop losses now. So you can see recently, these last bunch of trades, my stop loss is much tighter. 2 grand, 3 grand. This one's 800 bucks, which is bonkers. But I'm working on improving my stop loss percentages and dollar amounts to be safer. So safety is key. Taking profit strategy, ensuring that I'm getting a 2-to-1 return. Sometimes I'll jump in something and not really have an exit point, like a sell target. I started losing it on some of these. Like I want to make sure that I should have a sell target percentage as well on here, just so that I make sure that I'm getting a nice ratio, seeing the possibilities of an exit point that would be at least 2 times the entry point. Let's see what else we got. Take a little more time reviewing stocks. Sometimes I'm like, oh, that looks good. I see a green candle. I see consolidation. I see some gap uppy things, and maybe the volume's not there. Maybe I should back out and look at the chart on the 1 year or the 6 month. Maybe it's a big loser stock. Maybe it's about to have earnings, and that's gonna make things wildly volatile. Maybe there's a recent gap up or down that I didn't notice in the trade or in the chart that I need to review. So just sort of not making as many flash decisions on, yeah, I like the stock, it looks good, it's got a green candle, let's go. Sometimes I can find 4 or 5 stocks in 5 minutes, which is probably me not taking enough time to really be critiquing the stocks I want to enter. And set goal exit points for each trade. So again, just to reiterate, the taking profit level, I want to know where I want to get out and trust that level before I click the enter the stock button. Paying attention. So some, wrap up after 4, I should be checking on each stock after the trading day is done, just seeing if there's anything that needs to be tweaked. Let's say it had a nice upswing. Maybe I want to sell half off and move the stop loss up to lock in the profits, things like that. Moving stop losses on big moves, that's something I'm experimenting with as well. So you sort of choke off your losses, I guess, if you bring your stop loss up. Let's say you want to make 10% on a stock and it's moved up 4%. Well, it's not quite high enough to take a profit yet, but you also don't want to have a 16 or a 9% downside to it. So maybe you'd pull up your stop loss there. And then the selling half and locking in profits. I don't even know if I'm going to stick with that system. I mean, it sounds good in theory, but so far I know it's, a small amount of data, but both of the trades that I bought out early both ended up hitting my original target sell point. So maybe you're leaving a bit on the table doing that, but it's also reduces your downside. So experimenting with that, and we'll see where we're going. So the other thing I'm still figuring out is sort of the stop loss thing in general, which is like when I purchase a stock, do I just automatically add a trailing stop loss to it and then walk away? So essentially you put your, you'll never hit your high point, but you'll also have a much lower loss per trade because not very few trades will just immediately tank off the entire amount. It's much more likely for it to bounce around and it'll pull your trailing stop loss up along with it. And then you can sort of get, I think I used these examples here where their losses, yes, but the amount lost is, 0.01 and 0.23% loss. So clearly the trailing stop loss helped in that way where it, protected my downside. So I haven't decided if I like it or not. I haven't decided if I'm sticking with it, but I think I need to eventually settle on how I'm going to exit every single stock because I don't know if it would ever make sense to sort of change out those strategies to sometimes use a trailing stop loss, sometimes just use a take profit level and the stop loss level. But it feels weird to me that you would change those systems. Like you should just have one way of doing it. But that's what I'm thinking right now. So overall, I'm happy. Yay. Stock trading is fun. The market did good this month. So I'm, it's still the bull market. So, I got a buddy of mine who's a financial investor and he's like, anyone can make money when it's a bull market. But the real test is when the market starts sort of turning the other way. So anyway, hope you enjoyed, and I will see you next month for February.